r/askreddit, what did you learn from your parents that you will never impose on your child? Racism. It ended with me. I never said or taught my children the things my parents and relatives taught me. Same. My dad was racist. I still don't understand why. There is no reason to hate based on skin color. My kids grew up without that, so when he moved in with us, they would tell him to hush up if he started making racist remarks. My parents thought that despite not loving each other, staying together would somehow be better for me growing up as a child than just ripping the band-aid off and splitting up. Years of daily arguments and general horribleness to each other is way worse than what a parental breakup can do to a child. Mine too. Refusing to answer questions because the subject makes me uncomfortable. I will always give age-appropriate answers to my kids' questions. I don't have kids, but if I were to, I'd believe them when they say they are in pain or sick. Sure, every kid fakes at some point or other. But my mother would never believe me when I said I was really in pain or too tired to do anything. Turns out I have a condition that causes this, that I wouldn't discover until my 40s. That and individualism. I was one of those loner kids that liked to read a lot and that pissed her off a lot. I learned to not have kids. Problem solved. The true solution. Same. Sometimes the simplest solution is the easiest. Living the dream. My parents don't love each other. They got their marriage arranged through their communities. They just pretend to love each other. And they always wanted my sister and me to be the jury for their fight. They always try to involve us in every fight. So I made up my mind to neither fight in front of my child nor involve them. The unfair application of rules, let them do that, they're older/younger. You can't do that, you know better/need to be understanding. Yes, I'm a middle child. Being the middle child sucks. I was always told I'm the best part of the sandwich and that made me special while being either ignored or blamed for hurting/being mean to the younger and not being good enough as the older. Seek professional help and resolve your unresolved family trauma before having kids, or just don't have any kids at all. Putting away and avoiding problems instead of solving them for good. Not teaching them things. My mom got angry at me when she asked me to wash her car and didn't do it right. She got defensive when I pointed out she and dad never taught me how to properly wash a car. I will never get rid of my child's pet as a punishment for something unrelated. You don't have the right to be angry. Yelling. Not interested in what you do, not give compliments, not encourage you. Broccoli. Not involving them is a good thing. Occasionally arguing in front of them, provided you can handle things in a healthy way, is beneficial. It models good conflict resolution. No plans for reproduction, but I do have one. The firstborn is the favored. First adopted here, and I was disgusted when my mother told me this a few years ago. As much as I cannot stand, loathe, and abhor my younger brother, his racism, and his selfish actions, I will still stand by the fact that it is unfair and disgraceful to even think this way. Family is horrid enough, it doesn't need the help. If you punish kids for honest mistakes, they don't stop making them, they just get better at hiding them while hating themselves. If you use physical punishment, your kids might just grow up to think it's okay for people who love you to hurt you if you're not good enough. Religion. Church on Sunday was mandatory. My parents are good Christians who base their lives on following their faith. It gave me a good moral foundation, but as a young adult I ultimately decided it was limiting my personal growth, so became agnostic. For my children, I told them about religion, but I've left it up to them to make their own choices if they want to follow it. Religion. I've watched my dad slowly lay back on rules, and my little brother is a monster because of it. I think some parents run out of parenting energy when they have multiple kids. I've seen it happen, and the result is often what you witnessed with your little brother. Everyone loses. Nothing actually. I don't want to say my mom is perfect, but I always struggle to point out anything wrong when it comes to her as a parent or as a person. She's a great model to follow for how I want to raise my kids. Make sure you tell her this. My mom had the tendency to use me as a scapegoat when confronted with mistakes she made. I'd rather own up to my mistakes. Finish your plate. That college is the only way to find success and not be a loser that lives in poverty, working a dead-end job flipping burgers. It should be up to them to define what success is for them. They're their own person, not an extension of myself. My parents did this, especially with dairy. I would feel sick from drinking milk and they would force me to drink more. Although I don't completely blame my parents for this, as the dairy industry, along with the government, heavily pushed the narrative that children had to drink 24 ounces of milk per day. I still remember the ads. I will not physically assault my children like my dad did to me. I will not force my children into religion as my dad did, and I will not dismiss my children's feelings. My dad laughed when I mentioned having depression and thoughts regarding suicide. This is all assuming that I even have children. I might not live long enough to that point anyways. You don't need food for the next week till we get some more money, but I will die without my personal vice. So I'm going to spend the last of our money for my vice or trade the last of the food for it to the neighbor. Body shaming. Racism, violence, emotional abuse, intolerance. Time enjoyed is time wasted. Work, 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 die. Fighting. I hated to see my parents fight in front of me. It's just sad since I was quite young and couldn't understand why they couldn't get along. By experience, I know it's traumatizing, and especially if it gets physical. I learned that constantly comparing your child to others only breeds resentment and insecurity. I'll strive to celebrate my child's unique strengths and encourage their growth. Or just teach them that there will usually be some people that are better than them in certain areas, and that's okay.